Welcome to Season 2 of Ripple Effect Connection. I'm your host, Christy Hugic, here to bridge the gap between impactful messages and inspiring messengers. My mission is simple: ignite transformative discussions that create a ripple effect of positive change in your life and the lives of others. I'm also going to ask you a favor. If something resonates, share it. The more you share the podcast, the more the community grows, the more we're able to help people who may need it. If you've got a minute, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me bring you more incredible guests in Season 2 and beyond. In today's episode, I'm excited to welcome back a familiar and knowledgeable voice in the wellness space, holistic health coach Debbie Marlowe. She's a seasoned wellness expert with over 3 decades of experience. Debbie is also a regular and insightful contributor to this podcast, bringing her wealth of knowledge and authentic perspective. In Season 1, Debbie and I dove deep into the metabolic health crisis that's sweeping our society. Debbie also gave us an inside look at the beginnings of her real-time Ozempic experiment. Today, she's back to share an update on her journey with this much-discussed medication. Is Ozempic the right choice for you? How do you know? What are the side effects? What are the impacts on digestion and muscle mass? If you opt for this route, she will also provide some crucial steps that you must do. Debbie will give us her honest and unfiltered insights on all of this and more. So let's dive in and explore what Debbie has discovered. Okay, we are early in Season 2, and I can't think of anyone better to kick off a new season than having the great Debbie Marlowe back on the podcast. So Debbie, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, last season, your episode that you joined me for that we did on metabolic health was one of the most listened to episodes of the year.
Was it?
So people are into this topic. We talked about metabolic health in depth. We shared our experiences with CGMs. We talked about the metabolic crisis that we have right now. And then you were kind enough to open up and allow our listeners to hear about your personal experience with Ozempic. So you all can go listen to Season 1, Episode 12, and you can hear the full story from Debbie and all of our information about metabolic health. But Debbie, if you want, for people that are just joining us, can you give them a recap? Because we know the semaglutide Ozempic conversations have not stopped since we talked about this last. But can you give people a summary as to what brought you to the Ozempic experiment?
Absolutely. Just a quick recap. I work with a functional medicine doctor, and I've been on all sorts of protocols for the last 20 years. I have autoimmune disease, and I have a couple of autoimmune diseases. And things were just, despite my best efforts, things were just not going in the direction that he nor I were happy with. So on my regular visit, we were just talking, and weight gain has been one of the factors. Obviously, inflammation, it just kind of crazy inflammation despite my best efforts. And he said to me, "What do you think about Ozempic?" And I didn't want to think about it because I always feel like I should be able to do these things myself, and I want to take as little medication as possible. But him knowing me, he's like, just go do a deep dive on it and check back with me and see what you want. He goes, I actually put my mother on this, so this is how good I feel about this. I was like, okay. So I did a deep dive, and I did lots of research from a lot of different groups, from functional medicine to bodybuilders to naturopaths, just I brought a lot of information in, and I called him back and I said, okay, let's do it. So that's kind of where we started about a year ago. I'm just going to use the term Ozempic because there's 14 or 15 different, I don't even know how many are out there right now, but I'm just going to say Ozempic just to make it easy. I started it with the intention that I would do it for a year and see how things went. And I started at the very lowest dose, which is 0.25. I think Wegovy or some of the other ones start at like to 0.0. So I started very, very, very low. And I started there and I stayed there as long as I could. And I am now, a year later, up to 1 milligram. So I've been there for a couple of months. So that's kind of how this all started.
Well, I was curious about that, and I don't know the answer to this. What dictates that dosage and how you know whether or not it's appropriate to change it?
I believe I am overly cautious, and I didn't want to just rush into a large amount of this. I wanted, my thought process was I would start off very slow, get to 1 milligram, and then start going backwards to get off of it. I don't know that I will do that now, but again, I am about due for an appointment with my functional doctor, so we'll probably be chatting about that in great depth. Some of these start at, like I said, I think Wegovy starts at 2, and so that, I'm not even there after a year, so that kind of freaks me out a little bit, but that's what some folks do. What I recall about Ozempic was you were supposed to do like 0.25 for at least a couple weeks, and then go up to 0.5 for a little while, and then, 0.75 and whatnot. As I understood it, you were just supposed to do that like every 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. I stayed as low as I could for as long as I could. So like I was at 0.25 probably for 3 months. And then I titrated up. I mentally thought that by going slower, it would give me a longer time to get used to it and less nausea.
Oh, so what are some of the side effects that you have seen with this? Because I think some of those, we're still learning a lot because this is still so very new that there's just not enough research and case studies per se. But obviously more and more we hear each day. So I was wondering, give us your personal experience as far as the side effects.
Well, in doing my deep dive on Ozempic's been out there for like 10 years for diabetics. So it's well researched on diabetic folks. It's not well researched on pre-diabetic. So I was very encouraged because now we're finding out that it also helps with addictions. It's been great for me is for food noise. Like being a health coach, I was thinking about food all the time. If I wasn't thinking about it for myself, I was thinking about it for my clients. And so Ozempic has really made that so much easier. Like there's just time, like if I'm with somebody, I will actually say, I'm on Ozempic and I really don't think about food anymore. So if you get hungry, let me know, because I literally don't get hungry. I'm always hungry in the morning, and I typically eat a pretty big breakfast, and then I'll do, a little something for lunch. But like around dinner, I'm kind of like, I almost just have a snack now instead of a dinner because I don't want that much. Circling back then to what you did ask was, again, it's very personalized, and I think it's plug and play. I mean, you do the injections. I have done the actual Ozempic pen, and that's how I started. And then I moved to a compound, which is, for me, so much cheaper to do the compound. And I didn't notice a difference between the pen and the compound because somebody did ask me that the other day, and I couldn't tell a difference. So there's something to be said about that. I think you just have to find what works for you. And, you talk with your doctor and just make sure you know what works for you. As for the nausea, when I first started, I was pretty nauseous, but not anything horrible. Just more like that first month I ate a lot of crackers and ginger ale. Well, Zevia ginger ale, but ginger ale, just because it just felt that I had like little butterflies in my stomach. And I wasn't sick or anything like that, but I just was like, oh, I need some crackers. So I ate a lot of those almond crackers. But that's really all it's done for me. When I did first start, I was a little irregular for a little bit, but then that evened out after a month, I'd say. I would just say if you're starting, just make sure that you're either getting, I don't know that I would say a lot of fiber, because when you're first starting, I think that could upset your stomach more, but I'd be supplementing with some psyllium husks or something like that, just to make sure everything works properly.
I was going to ask, because that would be my first thing I would think, is that maybe higher fiber because of the delayed gastro emptying. I was wondering if the fiber, if they had to keep the fiber content down at all. So that was a curious question I had about that.
Yeah, I would say yes, because there was one day when I had, I don't know why, because it's not like my favorite, but I had rice cakes, and I had like more than I normally would eat. And that night I was just, it was like, oh boy, that was too much on the rice cakes, you know. I remember when I was a kid, well, I shouldn't say I was a kid, I was probably early 20s, and I got grape nuts, and I used to love grape nuts. I don't know if you remember the grape nut cereal. And I had it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then the next day I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It was kind of that feeling. It's just like, okay, well, we've brushed everything out now, so we're good. But I would say if you are starting this, I would say go low on the fiber at first. But, you know, the psyllium husk capsules are super cheap. You can get them anywhere. And I think that would be helpful just to keep things moving, you know, or some senna tea or something like that. I think mostly because when you're first starting, I don't think you end up drinking as much water. And I would say really do hone in on hydration when you first start, because not only was I not hungry, I really wasn't thirsty either. So especially if you live in a warm climate, I think you do have to make sure that you stick to those habits of making sure that you have enough water. Because I think I probably just didn't. I'm good on hydration typically, but I think I maybe forgot one glass here or two glasses here, and my body could tell the difference.
And those are really good tips to have, for folks. So it's important that you share these personal, unbiased experiences, because, sometimes I don't know that the doctors are talking about all that all the time. Not everybody has, the quality of a doctor with Dr. Rick. So our first piece of advice would always be try to find a practitioner that you trust, and that who has some knowledge about the situation and can tell you what the pros and cons are. I'm going to pause for a small public service announcement. If your doctor tells you need fiber, Debbie mentioned psyllium husk. Many doctors will go the Metamucil route. Let's just go with the actual ingredient that's in Metamucil that's valuable and not detrimental to the health, which is the organic psyllium husk. So let's just go with that.
Yes.
Because the Metamucil has about 1,000 other ingredients that are not really necessary nor good. So if a doctor tells you he would like you to take Metamucil to keep things moving, let's all make a pact that we will go to get some either organic, you can get it in a powder, psyllium husk, or you can do capsules like Debbie said. So let's all agree on that. No Metamucil.
Yes. And I'm going to say, Christy, I'll link you one down here in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's easy. You can get it on Amazon. It's not hard. It's not hard
cheap.
At all. So, and it's not expensive. It's actually probably cheaper than Metamucil.
It probably is.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
A client I had, I know not to get off on a side tangent on Metamucil.
Please do. I love side tangents.
We love side. You guys know that if you're listening to us, there's going to be small rabbit holes and side tangents. So please bear with us. But this is a public service announcement. I had a client who said to me, I said, what are your supplements and medications that you're taking? And he went through his list and he said Metamucil. And I said, why are you taking the Metamucil? Had diverticulitis. Doctor wanted me to take the Metamucil to keep things moving. How long have you been taking the Metamucil for? 20 years. Let's just do this. I'm going to show you. I literally took the ingredients and I broke them all down, what each of them were. And only one of them is valuable, and that is the psyllium husk. So I said, you could do this and take all these dyes and this and that that are known carcinogens, or you can just get some organic Metamucil or organic psyllium husk. Right. So that's my public service announcement for the day.
Let me throw one more thing out here because I was just thinking of it. And I've talked to a few other people that are doing Ozempic, and they have found this also to be true. That some days when you do the shots, it's not right away that you feel nauseous. It's like a few days later. So I don't know what it is behind that, but like, I can give myself a shot and feel fine. And then like day 2 or day 3, I'm like, oh, I'm a little nauseous today. So again, mileage may vary and it may be different for you, but a few of us have noticed that it's, you kind of do the shot and you expect to feel nauseous, and that's not always the case.
How often do you have to do the shots?
You're supposed to do them weekly. I am not a good patient sometimes. And when I first started out, because I noticed, the food noise gone, the appetite gone, I kind of tried to do it like every 2 weeks or every 10 days, just not for nothing. I am a self-pay insurance person. And when I first started doing Ozempic, it was very expensive. So I was like, okay, let's see if we can make this go 10 days instead of, a week. So, and it was fine. Nothing, I didn't notice any other differences. But now already I have seen the prices on Ozempic come down so far. And I had a client who I was doing some health coaching on, and she was on Ozempic, and she's like, I hope you won't not take me because I'm on Ozempic. And I said, oh no, we're Ozempic friendly here. I said, in fact, I just got on it a few months ago. And so we had a really big conversation about it, because just because you're on Ozempic doesn't mean you don't still need to be on a plan or have a plan, or, it's not, I'm taking Ozempic, so it's a free for all. You should still be trying to get your protein, et cetera, et cetera. But then she told me about that she got it from a compounding pharmacy. And so then I kind of went that route, because that was like $150 a month for me, instead of, I think it was like $500 a month when I first started. So
Wow.
That was a big savings.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And you said this, one of the quotes I remember from you from last season's episode that stands out in my head is that Ozempic doesn't work unless you're working.
It's
and
true.
So I think that look, I don't want to generalize. I don't want to be judgmental, but I would tell you I have seen some people that just go this route because it's easier to them than trying to change their diet and trying to up, their activity levels. So it's counterintuitive to what you're saying. So I want you to talk a little bit more about that importance and what you meant by that statement about how, like, look, this is not a free-for-all or a free pass. It's not go eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, or just don't eat because you're on Ozempic. It's not that. So I want you to expand on that a little more, because I think it's important.
Okay, first I'm going to start off with something that I read that pissed me off highly. I was, social media somewhere, and somebody said Ozempic's not going to work because the people that use it are the people that don't have any self-control. And I almost ripped into that person, and then I reminded myself, what are you doing in the comments? You know better than to be in the comments, right? It is not true. The reason I started on Ozempic was I was trying everything and I was not getting anywhere. And Dr. Rick knew that, and he was like, you need Ozempic. And instead of saying, you need Ozempic, what he was really saying was, you need a helping hand. And I will say that anybody who is interested in being a lively elderly person could probably, if you have a weight or a diabetes or A1C or anything metabolic health related, it's a helping hand. It's not gonna finish everything for you. It's not gonna do everything for you, but it is a nice helping hand. So I liken it to this. So you're on a new protocol. Let's just say you're trying to eat a big breakfast and you're trying to get all the protein in and everything, but yet you still have all these cravings and so on and so forth. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you just didn't have those cravings? You could do so much more. So I think it's just kind of like somebody is helping you. Now, I will say I could have done things a lot better. I'm lifting, and we'll get back to the muscle situation. I hike. I walk my dogs. Could I do more? Absolutely. Do I want to do more? Absolutely. Life is just real lifey right now. So I'm trying to be kind with myself because I also know that stress doesn't help things either. But I think it's an amazing tool to help someone who is just at the end of their rope. And, I don't know that people know we're out there, but we are. There are people out there that are probably way more healthy than a lot of us, and we're chubby. We are the healthy, chubby people. We probably should start a club. But I think Ozempic is a really wonderful tool for people like me who do the best they can, but still aren't getting the results they're looking for.
Yeah, and you mentioned, doing a couple things. I know one of the things we wanted to get into, is there anything you would have done differently or anything you feel like you could have done better that maybe you would pass on to someone else as like, hey, watch out for this? You have mentioned a couple things, so you don't have to repeat those, but is there anything else that you would add to that?
I would say when I first started, I am a big believer in a big breakfast and a lot of protein. Okay, so let me throw that out there. So, if you're vegan, this may not it may not go with you. But those first couple of months, I was just not hungry. So I just didn't really eat breakfast. I really probably just snacked a lot. Knowing what I know now, I would say have a big breakfast, because I'm always hungry for breakfast, but those first 3 or 4 months I really wasn't. So now I make sure to have a big breakfast, with a lot of protein, because then that way, even if I fall off and don't eat a lot the rest of the day, then I know I've got, I try to get like 60 grams of protein in for breakfast. So, so then if my lunch is only 30 grams, I'm at least close to 100. I would love to be at like 120, 140. But even if I fall off, at least I've got, 100 grams in. And I say that I am not a macro counter, but, you can just kind of eyeball things and say, okay, well, there's 3 eggs. That's, 20 grams or whatever. So I would do breakfast better. I walk. I want to walk more. I wish I'm probably around the 8,000 steps a day. I'd really like to be around 12,000. So I would say if you do nothing else, just walk. If get a weighted vest and walk like that. And I am doing some weightlifting, but I could certainly do more. I'm really only doing it 2-3 times a week, and it's literally maybe a 20-minute session. So I would like to do a little bit more of that. So that said, I don't do any cardio really or anything like that. I think for me personally, the low impact kind of turtle exercises work real well for me. And I think that they're a really good place for somebody to start, because you can buy yourself a $20, $30 weighted vest and some decent walking shoes, and you don't have a large investment in there. So I would say that's everything I'm reading. If you're a menopausal or perimenopausal or postmenopause woman, walking, a weighted vest walking is about the best thing you can do.
Yeah, walking solves a lot of problems. Walking solves a lot.
It does. And I have a weighted vest, and because I live in a very mountainous area now, I have not really done it, because let me tell you, some days I'm struggling to get up some of these hills. But, if you're somewhere flat, definitely do it. But I will get there.
Yeah, but I mean, look at it. If you're walking hills without a weighted vest, that's a big difference. It's just changing up a treadmill exercise. Some people walk on the treadmill. They don't have the things that we do, or the places to walk like we do. And I mean, just changing the incline on the treadmill,
right,
can make it a little more challenging and just change the challenge a little bit. So I think all those are, good, honest things. And I think that you mentioned breakfast, and I wanted to know, what are the daily meals that you do have? What do those look like? Are you eating like paleo-ish still, or what do those meals look like for you?
I've given myself a lot more grace since. I mean, I would say I'm still kind of paleo. I will have bread here and there, probably more than I should. Quite frankly, I should have. My problem with gluten-free stuff is there's just as much junk in gluten-free stuff as there is a lot of times in other things. But like yesterday, I made some zucchini bread, which sounds like a horrible breakfast, but I made it with a protein biscuit mix or whatever, pancake mix. And I used yogurt, and it called for 1 egg, and I put 4 in there, so I really upped the protein on that. My breakfast looks much like it always does, which I love eggs, so I can eat eggs all the time. Husband likes smoothies. Sometimes we have smoothies, which are high protein. My coffee, I don't do coffee absolutely every day, but I always put collagen in that, electrolytes and collagen. So that's kind of breakfast for me. It's pretty high protein. Lunch can be, anything, a salad, a sandwich, leftovers from dinner. I am waiting patiently to get in my new house and have a real kitchen again. So I really haven't been cooking dinner. I basically am letting husband fend for himself for dinner. But I'll have a little something, like the other day I had some ham and cheese slices, and that was dinner. So you can kind of see how I kind of start big and then dinner is small. And, and Christy knows this, we did a lot of fasting and stuff. So I'm always like, I kind of like to be done eating by no later than 6. 5 is perfect for me. And being on Ozempic, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to snack. I don't, if anything, I'll have some of that rest and rewind tea and off I go. And I mean, that's pretty much it. So many of you may know this. It's breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. And so that's kind of how my day looks.
Yeah, and I think, look, you're following the cues from your body. There's no one size fits all for this. I think the most important thing to do is your body is always your best guide. And so what feels good for one person may not feel good. Debbie's path may not be the right path for the other. I go back and forth a lot. I change, and it's basically based on how I feel and, what I'm feeling is the right thing to do that day. And it can vary by the week. It can vary by the day. So I think always listen to the cues from your body. You also mentioned, strength training and something that you wanted to get back at. Ozempic, I've heard and read some things about the effect that it can have on muscle mass. So did you see that? Did Ozempic have an effect on your muscle mass at all?
I did not notice it. That said, all the research I read says to be very careful about it. Now, I did CrossFit for 10 years. Do I still have my CrossFit muscles? No. But even the little bit of strength training that I'm doing, I know that some of that is still there. Yes, I obviously, after you quit doing CrossFit, you lose some of that muscle, but I haven't noticed muscle loss. That said, I'm walking and doing a little bit of strength training. I think if I was a person who is very sedentary and was going on Ozempic, I would be a little concerned. I think if I were the doctor prescribing you Ozempic, I would say, here's your Ozempic prescription, and here is a personal trainer that you're going to go lift with. I mean, in a perfect world. Because not only are you going to lose muscle from Ozempic, but as we age, we lose it. So if you know you've already got this problem, and I'm kind of talking to myself at this point, why wouldn't you lift more?
Yeah. It's hard to combat that, as you get older in general, and now you're adding Ozempic to the mix. Mm-hmm. But just the strength training is important in general for as you get older. You have to load your joints, or we talk about osteoporosis and osteopenia and all those osteopenia and all those things that people are dealing with, at this time of their lives. And if you're a woman, you're getting whammied when you're going through menopause. I mean, it's like a frickin' freight train, and you might not, it's really nasty.
It's hateful.
Like nasty. And so you have to brave the storm. And I think if you're adding Ozempic to the mix, please, like Debbie said, if you're not sure how to strength train, get a personal trainer to do that, right? Because I mean, so let's put the doctor hat on you. Okay. You sort of mentioned it. Someone comes to you, some patient comes to you and it says, Dr. Debbie, I want to know what I need to do. I'm thinking about going on Ozempic. What do I do?
You start slow. You start walking if you're not already. Make sure you get your crackers and have your Zevia ginger ale or your ginger root beer. You have to take this very seriously. You're going to get on Ozempic. You're going to be nauseous. I want you to make sure that you're hydrating. I want you to be drinking X amount. Typically, I tell people half your body weight. I want you to be hydrating. I want you to be doing lifting. And I want you to make sure that you are getting a lot of protein. So between the protein, the walking, and the lifting, I think, and now you're probably not snacking, if you follow a basic good diet, and by diet I mean nutrition plan, you should be feeling a whole lot better. I will say I did have a lot of fatigue at first. And it took about 6 months to get rid of that. And I think it was Ozempic, but I'm not going to lie. It could have been any number of things. But if you have the fatigue, go lay down. Just, sleep as much as you can because sleep is healing. But yeah, I would say, make sure you're hydrated, getting your protein in. And I'm going to say protein again because most women don't even hit 100 grams a day, and we really should be getting, I say, at least 1 gram per body weight. So, if you're way overweight, maybe take that to what a good goal weight would be. But, we should be getting between 100 and 150 grams of protein a day. So if you're not already doing that, I would start there. But yeah, hydration, protein, lifting, walking.
Well, and you just did a great promo for episode 1 of season 2, which is Megan Rupp and I going through an entire guide on protein and how to consume it. So, wow, that's nice cross promotion, Debbie. See, this is why we have you back,
You're welcome. But it's true. I can't wait to hear it because I know how smart Megan is, so I can't wait to hear it.
I think we are going to have a new segment. It's going to be called Dr. Debbie. I like Dr. Debbie when Dr. Debbie comes to visit. So I like that.
I'm bossy.
Yeah. And I heard a couple things in you that I'm like, there's Debbie the Rebel, Debbie the Rebel, Debbie the Rebel. So we always have to contend with Debbie the Rebel too.
I really wish I didn't have to contend with Debbie the Rebel. My life would be much easier.
Yes. Any other final takeaways before we get into how people can get in touch with you?
I am not done with my experiment yet, so I don't want to put a little bow on it because I really don't know how this is going to end for me. I don't know if it's something where I'm going to go off of it and then be like, yeah, I need to be back on it because they say that you're supposed to be on this for the rest of your days. I don't know that I agree with that. But I'm willing to experiment with it. So I would like to come back for part 3 in 6 months or so and tell you what else I've learned because I'm just not really sure where I'm going from here. It didn't, I didn't drop 50 pounds and now I'm a size 2, which has always, I have always thought that it wasn't about food for me because it wasn't about how much I consumed, let me put it that way. Because, people would say, well, you just need to, count your calories and have a deficit. And I used to tell them, I was like, if that were true, I would be 100 pounds because I'm just not a really was never really a big eater, but yet I would gain weight. So again, back to you may be healthy, but it doesn't show on the outside. So I just think there's more things to learn here with this experiment. So I want you to invite me back.
Of course. Anytime you have an update, I think it's really cool that we just tell people that we are following this journey in real time. We're doing this in real time. And so I'd actually even be curious to see if there was any fluctuation or changes, positive, negative, whatnot, in labs. Because obviously you think of the mechanisms at play here and you're just like, well, gosh, are we sure we're getting enough nutrients? Are we able to? Because the hunger cues aren't there. Are we eating enough when the hunger cues are gone? That's the question, right? So I would be interested to hear those results just to see in your case if it made any difference.
I can tell you that my A1C was 5.8 before I started it. And when I did it last time, and again, it's probably been 6 months. I don't even know the last time I did it. And it was down to 5.3. So awesome. It did move the A1C in the right direction. And as I recall, pretty much everything was in the right direction. So again, is it just a helping hand? I'll take the helping hand for sure. So, but I'll call Dr. Rick.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like there's a possibility that even just alone could have helped reduce some inflammation overall. So it'll be interesting to see it. So yeah, you'll have to keep us posted.
Okay.
Why don't you let people know again, I know you're a regular, but every time you come on, I want to make sure you have the opportunity, because there's going to be people that want to reach out to you and talk to you about this. So how can people get in touch with you?
My website is motivateme.love. I am mostly on Instagram. And I am Motivate Me Love on Instagram. That's the platform I prefer. Facebook, I have Debbie Marlowe Holistic Health Coach, or just Debbie Marlowe. I try not to be on Facebook a lot, but I do volunteer for a shelter, and that seems to be the best place to get animals adopted. So I am on Facebook more than I prefer to be right now. You can email me at letschat@motivateme.love. I think that's probably about it.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you again soon, I know.
All right. Love you. Bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of Ripple Effect Connection. I appreciate Debbie sharing her journey and her honesty and transparency. I know that she will continue to keep us updated on what's going on with this journey. If some of this hits home, be sure to speak to a qualified medical professional to see if Ozempic is the right choice for you. It's very important to understand that this is not a silver bullet. The more we can align ourselves holistically with steps to improve our overall health, the more likely natural therapies can help. But if you're feeling like you need that helping hand that Debbie referred to, please get with a medical professional. Feel free to connect with me anytime on social media and let me know what resonated with you. Reach out on Instagram @WholeHealthChristy. You can also get the full show notes for this and all episodes on my website, christyhugic.com/podcast. I've got a brand new website with all new coaching offerings, and there's more to come. Next, spread the inspiration, like, follow, review, and share this podcast with others who may benefit from these stories. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ripple Effect Connection. Let's create waves of change together.